we all have dreams, big and small, that create a life in our minds different than our reality. All the while, we watch others seemingly make it happen. I'm Rachel Denson, a farm girl turned mortgage guru, moonlighting as your self-help cheerleader. Together, we'll pull back the curtain with intentional conversations and discover how you get there. Hello. Welcome to How You Get There. You are experiencing an inaugural moment. We are having our first live recording. We've got an audience today, an audience of one, but nonetheless, we've decided it's going to count. I'm here with my aunt, Rose Ross.
Good morning.
And then our audience member is Amanda Swain. She's not, you can't see her because she's in the audience, but you may hear her laugh or clap in the background. We're really excited that we've got somebody with us today just because, well, Rose asked if she could bring along her friend. I was like, I really think this will be, I'm going to let this count as our first How You Get There meetup.
That's right. And we're so excited.
Yes.
I'm so excited with my favorite podcaster. And then Amanda's just over the top. She's going to be our audience, and she's been good support for me.
Yes. Yeah. It's like she's your therapy companion. Like
yes,
she's your, support, emotional support friend. Not animal.
Yeah.
So anybody who doesn't know, my dad is one of 10. So I'm lucky to be blessed with very many aunts and uncles. But I'm extra blessed to say that, and I really thought about this the other day, and I haven't said this to you because I wanted your honest reaction. But my Aunt Rose is really now one of my very best friends.
Oh.
So I'm just so excited that she's joined me today, and I look up to her in so many ways. But we really just always have a good time together. And so, like I said, it's really, I thought about it. I was like, I think Rose is one of my best friends.
I know. And I, Rachel's cried on my shoulder as a little kid. And a few months ago, I cried on Rachel's shoulder, and she was there for me. And yeah, I have to say you're one of my best friends too, Rachel. You really are.
Yay. Well, I'm so glad you're here with me today. This has been an episode again that has been brewing in my mind and was one of the pillars of something I wanted to talk about on how you get there. And I touched a little bit on my own, but today, Rose, she's a Boston marathoner. She is a advocate, not just for fitness, but overall health and longevity, and is always willing to be a teacher to anybody who wants to hear her thoughts, her direction, and where to find information other places. She is truly a questioner at heart, y'all. We figured out when I started talking about the Four Tendencies, or she figured out she was a questioner. I said, I've known you're a questioner all along. And I think some of that flows into what we're going to talk about. And so I'm really excited to have her here to talk about just mindset when it comes to taking care of yourself, and also some tactical actions that I think anybody who thinks about, specifically would love to think about running for enjoyment and just doesn't know where to start. We've got some tactical first steps of things that I wish I would have figured out way sooner.
Right. Anything physical. And I think that's one thing, especially women and maybe older women. We don't look at the whole mind, body, spirit. We leave the body out a lot of times. And even if it doesn't go to running, anything physical that you do with your body and being aware of that, I guess, is more my message too. Start out with walking. That's the best thing. But running is near and dear to my heart.
Yes.
Always has been.
Yes. And so we're going to get into that more this whole episode. I do have one quick announcement before we go into Rose's How You Get There story and some follow-up questions and just our commentary that is funny. I feel like we're recapping conversations we've had so many times. But I have made I'm going to say the exciting choice that I have decided to have How You Get There turn into is it a bi-weekly show?
Yes.
Would that be every 2 weeks?
Yes.
Yep, a bi-weekly show. So there's no secret if you've listened to How You Get There lately. I have been on the struggle bus for
Right.
a hot minute.
Right.
And
Good lesson in being good to yourself and listening to yourself and what you need and allowing yourself space for that. I'm proud of you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, it is one of those things that I know that I am having to fight. Every minute I think about this, I'm having to actively fight the urge to feel like I failed. And I have to be fully transparent with that.
Right.
As these words are coming out of my mouth, to be positive and to see this as exciting and to see this as a good transition for right now, I have to be fully transparent that I am having to still make myself believe that. It is not that there is still that little voice in my mind that says, here you are again. You said you were going to do this every week this year, and yet again, you can't follow through with something. But I'm shutting that little mind.
What a great lesson. What a great lesson. And turn that inner critic off.
Yeah.
You would not say that to me. No. Would you? Someone you love. You would encourage me, and you got to encourage yourself and give yourself that same kindness. And you're finding out so young in life. I'm 62, and I've just found that out. And it's something that we battle. And it's emotion. It's emotion, and we got to feel all of it. And you've helped me with that so much. So much.
Everybody, I think I've cried the last 3 episodes on how you get there. So I promise I'm not going to go on and on. But also everybody who knows me or is getting to know me through this podcast knows I am a crier. Yes, so it's this is not uncommon for me either. Right, so it's
which is wonderful. I love it. I love it. I love the emotion, and I love living your life.
Well,
don't miss your life.
Yeah.
That's my message too.
Yeah.
And I've really struggled with that one for a year. This last year's been tough.
Yeah.
And you've been there every step of the way.
Well, and I think too, it's a good example of, I realized I'm either going to white knuckle to do this the way that I said I was going to do it to start with. And it's not going to be what I want it to be, because I'm not able to have the time to make thoughtful, curated conversations, accommodate people's schedules that I want to have on the show. And then I'm just skirting by trying to drum up some content that I want to talk about on my own. And I even mentioned on my last episode, the conversations that I even want to have that I think could be solo episodes, I am acknowledging and accepting I'm not even in the mental place to have those conversations thoughtfully. I talked about on my last episode, that one of the episodes I was really hoping to record soon was my last year of being free from alcohol and choosing to not drink for the last year. Right. And I don't even feel like I at least, and I will say, but I'm proud of the fact that I at least can acknowledge the boundary that I know I'm not ready to do that right now, even though I want to, because I want to do it the way I want to do it, which is thoughtfully. It's going to take some time and preparation. And just like how I hardly have time to do that for a guest, I don't even hardly have time to do that for an episode by myself. If I can transition to 1 week I record, 1 week I prep, I know my quality is going to increase. And that's really why I'm doing this.
Yes, and such a kind thing to do for yourself.
Yeah.
And, you'll thrive. A lot of people spend their life white knuckling because of expectations they think other people have. And, other people don't have those. They aren't thinking that. The people that you love want the best for you. Always remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now that we have covered that, I feel like I'm good. I'm good. We're going to get into how you get there with Rose. So Rose, like I mentioned, is a Boston marathoner. She's been an athlete her whole entire life. She is a retired teacher, so she's always had the teacher mindset that she's always been a mentor to students, even outside of just math, which I got to be in her math class. So, and I was her star student. I saw geometry, right?
You did. That was one of my favorite years, and it was just so great to have you in there and how our relationship developed.
It did for sure. And I think that was kind of the first time we ever had quality time, because being with a huge family, and we all love being together.
Right.
I don't know if we'd ever just spent time, me and you, before that.
Right. And I had my two daughters, and it was all caretaking more. And we kind of transitioned into not adult relationship, but knowing you as you're growing into the adult you're going to be. And that's what I loved about high school. I got a glimpse at what kids were going to be as adults. And your light just shone so bright. And I love the way you developed in that classroom. And we had our fun little moments. I always loved being with the high school kids, but you were definitely one of my favorites. Very favorite.
Well, thanks, Rosie. So I'm going to hand it over to you. I know you've got a little bit prepared for what you want to talk about, just whole picture, but then also really zooming in to your story with running in the last 7 years. And I think what you've learned through that and what we want to share with other people that may not realize that this is out there.
Right. Okay. So I am 62 years old. I did grow up on a farm with 9 siblings, and it was always an activity that just took over. No matter, it was always something physical. I was telling Rachel, I don't ever remember not running. Always ran wherever I went. Didn't even have a bicycle. I don't have a recollection of ever being tired. I became an athlete officially in middle school. So in middle school, I started in with basketball, and before that, I guess I was in softball. So I was earlier than that. So I was an athlete all the way through, played college basketball, and I always ran for conditioning only. I ran so that my goal when I played basketball was that I would never get tired on the court. In the matter of the 5 or 10 seconds that it took to line up and shoot a free throw, I could be rested from whatever sprints I just did during the game. That fatigue would never be a problem. I knew that would make me better. So I started running then and running distance and loved it. But I didn't have a good training. I was young enough to just run and get in great condition. So then life happened, had 3 kids, jogged a little bit here and there. But in the last 7 or 8 years, I started in running and decided I'm going to get in shape for a Grand Canyon hike. And I started running, and I thought, when something goes wrong, as it always seemed to do, I'll stop. Well, one day led to the next.
And you mean like injury?
Yes. I would have some kind of injury. And that was the common thread up until, I'm mid-50s. And before that, there would be something that would go wrong. I would take some time off, and I couldn't get through that point of running any more than maybe 20 miles a week. So one day led to the next, and I had about 3 years of running consistently, very slowly. I ran about 11:30 pace for a 4-mile route, and I was able to do that and not have any kind of injury. Then my little brother's talking to me and says, your running's going well. Why don't we try to find a Boston qualifier and see if you can qualify for the Boston Marathon?
Wait, he said that early on? I thought you guys had the conversation about.
It was, after about 3 years in, we had the conversation in 2020.
About the Boston Marathon.
Yes.
But before that, was it, have you tried to run fast?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yes. Okay. So I'm running 11:30 pace, and which for people who aren't runners, that's not, that's about a 35-minute 5K. And I really wanted to get closer to a 30-minute 5K. So I tell my brother, I'm just, I'm not getting any faster. And he says, well, have you tried running faster? Novel approach. So I tried adding in some speed workouts. And so my little brother started giving me some ideas to start running faster. Mm-hmm. And then I guess it was 2021 when he mentioned running in the Boston Marathon. Your running's going well. We did a 10-miler together, and I averaged under a 9-minute pace. So this is just a couple of years after he says, 18 months or so after he says, have you tried running faster? So tried that. But Michael was really my inspiration, and he changed the way that I trained. I was used to going out and running in what we call the gray area. Do you want to go there?
Yeah,
As far
tell
as the
us
gray,
about it.
okay. So your body has cortisol that it pumps through your veins when you're stressed. It serves you very well if you're running from a bear. It serves you very well if you're trying to stress your body and you want to run fast. And it's good for you to train like that once or twice a week. But if you run and you've got cortisol pumping through your body every time you go out, it wears your body out. It's the hormone that pumps through when people are super stressed and they go to the doctor and find out they have high blood pressure, their cholesterol's up, and they start having health problems. So it's your body doesn't know if it's physical stress or emotional stress. So I was training without knowing it. I was training in a gray area. I wasn't running fast enough to work on my sprints, but I wasn't running slow enough for my body to be able to make the adjustments for fitness. When you run long and slow, and this is one of the things my brother preached to me, and he slowed me down on my running days. And this is what I would suggest to anybody who's starting out. Start out walking at a comfortable pace. If you can't carry on a conversation, you're going too fast. If you can't carry on a conversation, more than likely you have switched over to that where you're pumping cortisol through your veins. And that adversely affects you. So I started running long and slow. And this is what I would suggest to anybody: start out walking, jog a little bit if you feel like you can jog a little bit and still not be running out of air, getting to where you can't talk. And then you have to just slowly build up. It's a boring process, and I built up without really knowing that that's what I was doing. One day led to the next for me. But that's what I would suggest to anybody, and that's how my brother has worked my training.
So you decide you want to try to qualify for Boston. So tell us about that.
Yes, we look for a qualifier at my age. For any of the runners out there, it's 4 hours and 20 minutes, which is just under a 10-minute pace, which, 6 or 7 years ago was a struggle for me to run 4 miles at that pace. So we pick out a qualifier, and Michael makes out my training. It's all about time on my feet, which is a different way to train for me. It's all about time on my feet. He encourages me in any of my runs, long runs especially, stop and take a walk break if you need it. The main thing that he stresses is listen to your body. If you feel like it's too hard, slow down and walk, but keep that time on your feet.
And I think that is the polar opposite of what most people think they should be doing. Unlike you, I remember like my first memory of running was when we were running for cheerleading. And it was like the first thing we did to start practice, and it was, okay, get 2 laps done basically as quick as possible. Mm-hmm. And it always sucked. It right. was never fun. It was like, it's set up to feel like a failure. Right. Like if you were one of the last ones to finish, well, you weren't in shape. And it's like, well, why did we think running 2 laps 3 times a week was going like to ever get easier when we weren't doing anything in between? But that was really the way that running started for me. And then it really transitioned in just a way to try to lose weight. And that was my only focus, was that I was running to try to burn calories. And so I think that was the other thing, is I wanted to run for as short of amount of time as possible, but also burn calories. Right. So I was like, okay, I can run really hard for 20 minutes and I've hit my calorie burn goal, whatever. And I'm going to check my box and move on. When it's funny because like nothing else in my life really was aligned with what I said my goals were. But anyways, and so that was something that was not, and all I did was just run as hard as I could for as long as I could, and then I would stop. And it didn't feel great either. Like my body hurt, I would just think this is just part of it and I just have to fight through it and just keep running. Right. And that walking was a failure.
Right. That a couple of things with that. Exactly. Walking, time on your feet, never a failure. Listening to your body, and it doesn't it's not linear either. That's the other thing that people don't understand. They take off walking or they do a little jog and they feel not so good in the beginning. It's not linear. It's not like if I feel bad in the first 10 minutes, I'm going to feel horrible in the next 10 and worse in the next 10. That is absolutely not the truth. And as you listen to your body and as you get in a rhythm,
Mm-hmm.
you will figure out that it's something to do with your mind and your spirit as well. And there's a part of that that is regulating for your nervous system. I have known my whole life that running and physical activity is therapy for me emotionally. I have known that, and I never thought about it much until this last year. And someone said it to me, you're regulating yourself. You're regulating yourself with the rhythm of it. So a couple of things. Listen to your body, and it's not linear. And that's true of everyone. And every day won't be as much fun as maybe the next one, but it'll keep you coming back for that next one.
Yes. And I think too that we were talking about yesterday, preparing for this episode, mindset is everything. When you go out with the self-talk in your mind of, oh, I have to do this because I don't look the way I want to look, or this is just a way to get a means to an end, that negative self-talk is not going to help your mindset to get through your run. Like when you're being kind to yourself, when you are doing something to help your body,
Mm-hmm.
everything, you are listening to your body better. You realize that just being out there, just doing it is enough. And listening to, you're not crazy, or you're not out of shape or like a failure because your knees hurt while you're running. It's like, no, you need to listen to your body and don't keep pushing through something because
Absolutely.
of that. And especially I think when you have the mindset of it being something you have to do, or like I said, a kind of almost in a linear set of a punishment, those things are gonna come, you're gonna feel like those things need to be tampered down. Versus when you're out there to really enjoy the journey, I think you're more willing to accept this shouldn't be in the way it is. And
Right.
then when you hear that people go and do and they don't feel that way.
Right.
And it's like, oh, well, what are they doing differently?
Right. Right. Mindset is and there's a ton of empirical data that backs that up. Your mindset, your mind, body, and spirit all work together. And if you want to throw darts and you want to listen to that inner critic, and your inner critic is telling you horrible things, you'll become that. There is no question. The other thing I want to throw out there too is there's a community around this as well. And having community and having someone walk this or run this with you, there's a lot of value in that as well, you know. And I want to throw this out there too, it doesn't matter the level the runners race at. You know, you could have a runner who's going to race really fast and a runner who's not looking to race really fast, and the two of you can train together. You're both getting a lot of value out of it, and your body's making those adjustments cardiovascularly. So don't be afraid if you just started running, walking. Don't be afraid to reach out to somebody that you think is a fast runner. You know that anyway. I want to put the plug in for that community, but that's part of the mindset.
Yeah, absolutely.
Part of the mindset, and when you think about it, and you're having conversation, and you're in community when you're running and talking, two things: you're able to talk, so you're going at the right speed. The second thing is you're in community, and it just makes it more pleasurable. It does for me.
Well, and then it's kind of like the old saying of the opposite of a truth can also be another profound truth. Because just like you said, though, the other thing you have to realize is as you are being good to your body can do more than what you realize that it can.
Absolutely. That is one of my brother's favorite sayings, and he got me through a couple of races by pointing out that your body can do things that your mind tells you it can't. Mm-hmm. My brother thought I could qualify and run the Boston Marathon when I did not think I could. But I had trust in him. I trust the process. And really, I put one foot in front of the other. On days when that's all I could do, I put one foot in front of the other and let the chips fall and to see what was at the other end.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that was, and we have recently ran a half marathon together. And I remember, I didn't train like I'd hoped I was going to be able to train. That's one of my things for this year. Is I would love to be able to really figure out a good chunk of time to devote to training, doing a training plan, that really I think you're going to help me write and executing on that. But for that race, that was not the story. But I also had to remember, my body can do this, especially if I don't go out there and punish it by trying to go faster than what I know is reasonable.
And your mindset.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I just set out and I was like, today is a day that I get to go run for probably 2.5 hours and nobody is interrupting me, because part of my struggle with running is finding the time. Right. So I just try to keep telling myself, this is a gift. Right. I'm out here. I get to be out here just this time to solely devote to this one thing as a gift. And I'm just going to chug along at the pace I can chug along. Right. And it is funny how I didn't wear a fitness watch or anything. And the mile markers were weird. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I had my watch on.
Because I would like pass a number and I'm like, is that right? Like I really truly was just running into the abyss. Right. And it was really a gift because I had no mental gymnastics on
no expectations.
Where am I? Right. How much longer? It really, when I started deteriorating, was really when I figured it out, because I was like, holy crap, I think I only have a 5K left. Right. And because I had like really been able to get through
in the zone. That's the zone. That's the zone that you get in with running, and what a gift to yourself.
Well, and I ran the whole race, and what you were talking about is this conversation pace. I wasn't talking to anybody, but I kept trying to make sure I could sing a song that I loved if I wanted to sing like along to it or lip the words or whatever. And I was going like real slow. But I knew that if I didn't have to worry at least about the cardiovascular issue, right, and all I had to worry was getting my body through it, like you said, I just kept trying to tell myself, my body can keep making the steps.
Exactly. There's a lot to that. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So we've talked a lot about the mind, body, spirit. There are a couple more things that I know we had talked about that we really wanted to hit on about if you are new to fitness, and I think especially cardio fitness, maybe just saying that running, walking,
right,
having that a part of your daily routine. I, for too long, tried to use my tennis shoes that I bought for quote unquote exercise, but really never really checked into what kind of tennis shoe I was buying.
Right.
And good shoes can be a total game changer, not just in your feet, but your knees, your hips, the whole 9 yards. And I think that that's something that people think, oh, I shouldn't invest in this until I'm more serious about it. But what I've learned is you'll never get serious about it if your body hurts, and your body will hurt if you don't have good shoes.
Yes. You have to have a good pair of shoes. If you don't know anything about it, don't have a running friend that can help you, go to a sporting goods store. You want it big enough. You want your shoes big enough, and you want something that's made for running and walking. And your feet should not hurt. If you have a shoe on and your feet hurt, you need to try a different brand, a different size. But that's a great starting point, because you can't be comfortable if your feet are hurting. And you always have to take care of your feet.
And there, you can do a quick Google and find out there are athletic brands that their bread and butter are making shoes for running and walking. And
Yes.
those are absolutely different shoes than gym shoes or, I don't know, other shoes.
Right. And
You know,
all other sports.
fashion tennis shoes, you name it.
Right. You need a running shoe, and if you're not one who wants to go into a sporting goods store, there are lots of places out there. Running Warehouse, I'll plug. There's a lot of places that will allow you to order a pair of shoes, try them on, wear them around the house, send them back, and get your money back. There are those same places will allow you to order a pair of running shoes, run in them for 60 or 90 days, walk in them, send them back because this hurts my foot. They won't give you your money back on that one, but they'll give you another pair of shoes. They'll give you the bill for that to order more shoes. So it might take you a while if you don't have a sporting goods store or a running friend, but get some shoes that feel good on you start to finish when you're running and walking.
Well, and I will say, shameless plug, if you don't have a running friend, find me on Instagram and I'll be your running friend. And I am glad to help with some suggestions. I know I'm a Hoka fan. Rose wears a Nike to race in. Do you wear Nike? Well,
yes.
Yeah, you wear Nike.
I wear the Nike. I wear the super shoes. Nike super shoes. The carbon. And I decided they're really expensive, but they are way less costly than going to the doctor. And at my age, I'm going to splurge on that. A doctor visit or a pair of running shoes. I'm going to go for the running shoes. So I always have good shoes. But I have good shoes, anything I put on my feet, even any of my dress shoes. I don't wear real high heels, that kind of thing. I really take care of your feet. And I can be reached also. I'm easy to find. Rose Ross, I'm out there. You can find me too. Reach out if you want, bounce anything off of me.
I love that. Okay, final little thought is, we had talked about mindset. We've talked about getting the good shoes. We've talked about the running and walking a little bit. But Rose, we were talking about how even these couch to 5K plans that you can Google, I think are unrealistic to some extent. And so I wanted you to really talk to our audience who is starting from total ground zero and lay out, at what point do I transition into pushing harder, and going from the walking into the more running, and at what increments would you start that at?
Well, that's a difficult question in a lot of ways because everybody has a different starting point. But I would start if you're not a runner at all yet, start with walking. And again, it builds a habit. It needs to be consistent. It needs to be every single day. If you start out at 30 minutes of walking, and that's a little bit challenging, do that for a couple weeks. And you may walk and build up and add 15 minutes a day, somewhere around 4 hours on your feet in intentional walking a week, and then build that up before you start to run.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can start running, from telephone pole to telephone pole or driveway to driveway, enough to get your heart rate up just a little bit.
And is that the zone that you can talk, or would you say that from telephone pole to telephone pole it's okay to be more exerted to where you couldn't talk during that stint?
I would be a little more exerted, but don't hold that pace. By the time you get to the next mailbox, you might feel a little winded, and then go back to the walking
until you're not winded anymore.
And then you once you build that up, and that will take a while, but being consistent and persistent will keep you from getting injured. And that's the problem. 2 steps forward, 1 step back is not the way to do it. And 90% of the injuries are too much, too soon. But do the boring things. Do the walking. Whatever works for you. Walking with a friend. Listening to a podcast. Whatever it takes. Do the walking. Throwing in the running. And then you can build up the running. Once you're to a point where you're training for something, you will only have challenging workouts. Challenging, but not too difficult. That's what my brother says. Challenging workouts twice a week. The other 5 days will still be the long, slow, easy running that you can do with any kind of friend.
Love that. to wrap us up, I want to talk a little bit about back to the Four Tendencies, because I think that although so much of this, all of this content is applicable, I think, to anybody, any season of life.
Right.
But I also have to throw out a disclaimer of, with Rose, I mentioned at the top of the hour, when Rose is a questioner, she is able to put, after she has the logic, she is good. Mm-hmm. She is set in her decisions, and she does not struggle with needing the external accountability to do what she sets out to do. Right. And I do think that, and I admire that, and I think if you're somebody that is a questioner and you can encapsulate that and you can do the homework and the research to get your actions to match up there's maybe a seed planted in your mind about something you're interested in, and if you just did the homework, you could get fully committed to it. That's great. But there are a lot of, most of our world are obligers, right, where they struggle to meet internal expectations and right, need the external accountability. And so I think everybody also just needs to give themselves a little bit of grace about how are you wired and how can you be successful? Because some of the stuff that we are talking about, or that Rose has been able to say, with her mindset being everything and getting these things together, and she was able to execute, that isn't everybody's story, and I mean, really, it's not mine. Right. I hear all this stuff and I'm not even executing like I would like to, right, because there are other priorities in line, and mm-hmm, everything is pulling in certain ways. So I also think that we all have to be aware that you've got back to your self-awareness, mm-hmm, and mind, body, spirit, of taking care of yourself, knowing yourself better, listening to your body, mm-hmm, how you are wired, and using that to a tool to your advantage, and not punishing yourself, right, for those right, things.
And maybe the hack is for the obligers who do look at the outside world. I guess they
need the external accountability.
Okay, right. Maybe you think about the best way you can show up for your people is to take care of yourself. And the better you take care of yourself, mind, body, and spirit. I'm not, mm-hmm, just talking body. Maybe the better you take care of yourself, the better you're going to show up for your people. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's the hack, and that's the mindset.
Yeah. Well, and we have a self-care tip of the week, and I'm choosing it for Rose because I do feel like she needs to, this is something that she can talk a little bit about to finish this up, which our self-care tip of the week is going to be try an elimination diet. Get out of your box when it comes to your nutrition. Rose is way ahead of the curve. Before being dairy-free was a thing, Rose was dairy-free. It really, back to her questioner tendency of, for her, she was able to figure out that it made her feel substantially better, and she was able to stick with it. But I was going to let her talk just a little bit about that more, but really our whole point is we have both experienced learning about ourselves and what is good for our bodies by doing an elimination and really thinking about how does this work. And it's almost like treat yourself like a little science experiment, make a little hypothesis of like, this is what the research says I should feel like. Do I feel that way? Do I have more energy? Do I have less brain fog? Do I feel like have less digestion issues? Right. All of that. So, Rose, here's your time to get on your soapbox for how you get there.
That has just been a game changer. And I am a questioner. I'm a questioner with my doctors. You can imagine what it's like for me to go to the doctor and them to tell me something. I'm going to question them. I had some issues, and they said, well, when it gets too bad, you can just have a hysterectomy. I didn't stand for that. So I looked into dairy and the effect and the hormones and that kind of thing. And when I was premenopausal, and I eliminated dairy, and I eliminated the problem. Now, whether that was coincidence or not, I believed in it. And then I quit eating any kind of animals about 7 years ago. And that's been a game changer for me also. Having a plant-based diet, it makes me eat more plants, less processed food. I read the research. There's a lot of empirical data out there that supports the fact that meat and dairy are really bad for you. So I've preached that. That's been my soapbox. That's been my story. I'm 62 and still running, and people ask me about it. It's a combination of things, but I know that the diet has something to do with it. And I know you all used to make fun of me about the dairy.
Yes, that's we can end on a kind of funny note. So I was telling Rose, I remember like it was probably around 15 years ago where we would go to Dairy. This is right when she first decided it. We would go to Dairy Queen and we'd be like, oh, can you not go? You can't have dairy. And we would totally roast her, and we were really mean. Yes. We were real, yes, we would throw shade all the time. And I admire how, Rose was just like, meh, I don't she was like, poke fun of me as much as you want.
Nothing tastes good enough to make you feel bad.
Yeah.
That's what I got to.
And I admire, that you, and like I said, this is one of those things where I don't think you can make yourself wired this way.
Okay.
But to be so free from the opinion. I think it's either a light bulb moment. I think some obligers can feel this way. So I don't think it's just that you have to be a questioner or something to feel this way. But I think you really have to get to a point where you're so far in this camp that you're like, you can mock me all you want. Yeah. I know what I'm doing works.
The mocking is almost affection for me. It's a way you show love to me. And from my people. Should it come from somebody who's not my people? That's a different story. Right. It might land a little differently.
I love that you say that, because I was going to ask if it ever bothered you, but I think it's one of those things where it's cultural. To me, and I've noticed this in elimination diets or giving up the alcohol, all that when people find out you're doing something that they feel like maybe they ought to be doing, they almost want to tell you their story about why they're not. Right. And it's didn't ask for that. Right. So I think for us as your family, we couldn't help but to feel like you were and it goes back to all of us thinking that the other people are looking at our decisions, criticizing them, and they're not. And so I think how we all coped with that was being oh, we're going to gang up on Rose, and oh, she doesn't like dairy. It's so bad. And then here we are 15 years later, and the whole entire world, we've got plant-based, all different alternatives. So I guess joke is on us.
Yeah, maybe it works for me, and people talk about me being, I guess, technically vegan. I call it plant-based. And that's so extreme. Well, I'm torturing animals and eating them is extreme. You love your dog. You love your dog.
I'm not taking the bait. I'm not going here. I'm an ag major. I just can't even with you right now. Okay, on that note, thanks for enjoying our first live episode of How You
Shout out to Amanda.
Yeah, we got our live audience back there. Thank you so much for joining us. And hey, I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you for joining me this week. I hope this episode met you where you were at, and it's given you your own clarity on steps forward for how you get there. Wherever and whatever that is, it is important and your dreams matter. I would love to hear what you think of this episode and how you get there. You can connect with me personally via email at howyougеттhere@gmail.com, or you can find me at Rach Ross Denson on Instagram, TikTok, and all other social media platforms. If you love How You Get There, I have a favor to ask. Will you share this episode with a friend and take a few seconds to follow, rate, and review How You Get There wherever you listen to your podcast? Please know you are playing a part in making my dream come to life, and for that, I am so grateful. Don't forget, if where you want to go in the future involves a home loan, I would love to help you. Find me on Instagram at @RachelDenson_MLO to learn all about mortgages from my videos, or use the link in the bio to schedule a one-on-one consultation with me. I hope to see you back here next week, where we'll keep talking all about how you get there.